typical painting, what I usually do, just let you watch me paint for a while. I'm not going to be painting today because I am worn out and I cannot emotionally handle that right now. And it takes a lot of mental energy for me to paint. So, I'm going to kick this off. With a record, because I've really been enjoying listening to classical music on records lately, because I've been getting them for like $2 through a store. By the way, go check out my website, ezekielschmidtart.com, because it really just helps me out just to see if people even click on it from these videos. I don't even give a shit if you buy something or not. I just want to know that people are actually even knowing about it. At this point, I don't give a fuck. But let's get on, now that the sponsorship is out of the way, because this is how I make my living. Let's get on with the art discussion. So today's piece, we are discussing Psyche, which is one of my earliest pieces. And as you can see in this, there's my favorite thing to do, which is put faces and eyes and stuff that shouldn't actually be there, where a face comes out of just the elements of the painting. And with this one, you can see that the face is created out of two figures battling it out over the altar, or whatever source of power that's in the middle, that's in between these two. And I like how I created kind of a brain look, if you can see that, by using the clouds. This is one of my favorite pieces, and probably one of the ones that I've gotten the most feedback on. People really enjoy this one. But the reason that I painted this is to illustrate the kind of the duality of the mind. And we like to think of ourselves as being beings of a single consciousness. We like to think of our identity as being, oh, I'm me. I'm just this one singular thing that makes all the decisions. When in reality, that is pretty far from the truth. There are lots of different parts of our brain that communicate with each other, different parts of our psyche that communicate with each other, and from those, we have this kind of, I don't know if it's an illusion of a singular consciousness, but I think it creates this, like this. All these elements coming together to create a face. And just one single observer out of these two figures. So, like, there's the old, I guess it's a cliche, I guess, at this point, of the left and right hemispheres of the brain. If I remember correctly, in certain instances, like say if the brain has had trauma to it, or the one hemisphere has been removed at an early enough stage, the brain will compensate, and the functions that would normally be like a left brain thing, like logic, mathematical thinking, that kind of thing, if I remember correctly, it's language is also left brain, will be taken over by the right hemisphere, and it will be compensated due to the fact that our brains are resilient as fuck. Neuroplasticity can really go a long way, especially in the early development of the brain, when we are constantly exploding with new neural connections before they begin to get cut during our teenage years. But all that aside, the idea of having two parts of the self, or multiple parts of the self, that come together and create this unified consciousness has always fascinated me, because we like to think of ourselves as being in control, like the part of us that speaks to ourselves, or not everybody has the inner monologue, but a majority of us do. We like to think of that as me, when that is only the awareness of the language faculty kind of feedback within ourselves. I think that we all have that inner monologue, but I think that certain neural hookups don't necessarily bring that inner monologue feedback to awareness, because we can talk with ourselves. We can have battles within our own minds of like, do I do this? Do I not? When we're struggling with addiction, when we're struggling with these thoughts of, like, what should I do? And you talk to yourself. Sometimes, if you ever argued with yourself, it's a weird sensation, because shouldn't you just have thoughts of being like, oh, this is what I'm doing, and you do it, instead of self-doubt. Who else is in there? It's you. And that's where we kind of get the, if I remember correctly, schizophrenia is recognizing the voices within ourselves as not being part of us, and not being able to recognize it as the self. That causes, or that is described as schizophrenia in certain instances. I am not a psychologist. I just have an intense love of learning and love of learning about the mind and philosophy. So I pick up things. But because of that, we are able to reason things through just with ourselves. We can have a dialectic with ourselves, just being by ourselves. Unfortunately, that can sometimes lead to some pretty whacked out thinking that doesn't necessarily correlate with reality. There's lots of instances that I've had in my life where I've talked myself into something that, going back and then doing actual research or trying something out, and you're like, oh, that's not how it actually works. Because you can reason with yourself, and sometimes it's really easy to let yourself win what you want to think, what you want to believe. If there's not a true battle between the logical and the or the individualistic and the holistic side of yourself, sometimes you can, if it's unbalanced, you can let one side take over a little bit more than the other, and you end up in trouble. I speak from personal experience. I don't know if anyone else has had these experiences. I'm hoping that you can relate. But for me, that's one of the things that I was trying to illustrate in this, is that battle of the self. When we're fighting with ourselves, trying to make a decision. When we're trying to balance ourselves, essentially. And I think it's good to have a certain amount of self-doubt, because we don't know everything. Knowledge is extremely finite, and most of what we know is wrong. And it's just approximal knowledge that gets us through our day-to-day living. And sometimes we have to question ourselves. Like, there's the big anarchist thing, like, of question authority, that's all well and good, but do you question yourself? Do you question your own preconceived notions? It's really easy to, like, fall into something like, I really enjoy studying religions, and it's really easy to convince yourself of something because of certain premises. If you take certain axioms as being true, and you base everything off of that, you can go astray if one of those axioms actually is broken, if it isn't correlating with experiential reality. And I like to use that term, experiential reality, because everybody experiences something different, and there is something to be said about true experimentation, which is trying to disprove what you think. That's why I like science. As much as I really enjoy magic and religion and the occult and things that are kind of on the woo-woo side, I also like to balance it with science. What can we truly, not necessarily know, but what can we disprove to ourselves? What can we know is false? That's something that I think is more interesting than truth, knowing what's false, because we'll never get to the truth, because all knowledge is an approximal model of reality. That's all knowledge is. If you want to debate me on that, I would love to have a discussion on what knowledge is. how we know things, and why we think things as being true. Because this is just all I think about all day. And I don't really have too many people to discuss it with. Or at least people that want to truly engage in dialectic and find the truth by reasoning with each other. Instead of just taking a stance of, oh, my side is right. That's a very bad idea. Because when you come at a battle with come at an intellectual battle with the preconception that you are in the right, when you're shown to be in the wrong, first of all, you're going to be very embarrassed, and then you're most likely going to defend a bad position because you already think that you're right. And because that you don't want to be embarrassed anymore, you're going to find the most flimsy arguments. You might even resort to different types of logical fallacies, ad hominem attacks. You're not going to be in a good position for truly discovering knowledge that reflects what we experience. Because there is no truth, in my estimation. Truth is a function of language. Like, the lamp is on. The statement is true. The words that I said are true, meaning they are reflective of reality in the moment by the proximal model I'm using. As soon as that light is turned off after this video, the statement, the lamp is on, will no longer be true. It's kind of similar in programming. You have like true and false statements. If such and such equals true, then engage next sequence of programming. But if false, then something else will occur, or if you program it that way. So it's good to seek truth, but it's even better to discover what is false, what you can prove is false. Like, the sun is a square. If I look up, I will immediately see that the sun is not a square, and I can disprove my hypothesis. I cannot necessarily prove the composition of the sun from just plain observation. If I had the proper instruments, yes. But from just looking at it, I cannot tell whether my approximal statement that the sun is a ball of gas that's on fire, I don't know if that's true or not, because I have no way of actually disproving saying, like, I could say the sun is a giant light bulb. It might be round, because like I might look up and say, oh, the sun's round, a light bulb was round, therefore the sun is a light bulb. Ooh, that's not a good way to think. You say the sun is observably round. Why it is round, I don't know. But I can go through the process of elimination, and what is left is most likely what we call true. But that's the whole point of this for me. The battle of the mind of deciding what is true, what is reality, what is what we perceive, because of these different parts of ourself that communicate with each other to give us an approximal model that we can function with. And from those, all those parts of the self communicating, we create the unified consciousness that is talking to you right now, that is aware of itself. And that's also kind of how I view God. I think we are parts of the whole consciousness that expresses itself as material and kind of the ethereal, the mind stuff and the matter stuff and all its individual parts creates one unified manifestation of material and immaterial consciousness that is infinite in many different aspects that we don't even know about. And that's what I call God or the universe or whatever. I refer to it usually as the universe, because universe means one sentence, kind of like, so it's like I just like want to use something simple, something that people can get on to without the whole religious aspects of it that have very, very specific meanings, especially in the American culture. When someone says God, they typically are referring to the Judeo-Christian deity that kind of evolved into this weird thing that we have right now, that people think of as God, where it's like some dude in the sky with a beard. Like I'm not big on the idea of the sky daddy. I like the idea that Hermeticism kind of promulgates different layers of reality that are self-consciousness, that are self-conscious, and kind of, it's, go read the Corpus Hermeticum. Some of the books kind of contradict each other a little, to a degree, because they're books written by different people at different times with different revelations or expressions of thought. But just like our mind is different parts that are battling with each other that create this one unified being, so is the universe. We are part of the consciousness of the all, and I think that we all have the potential to tap into that, to experience it in a holistic way. Psychedelics are one avenue to get a glimpse of that, but even then, there is still kind of a barrier of being truly one with everything, because from what I know of psychedelics, even when you trip, you still have a sense of self. And I know people are talking about, ego death and things like that, but even then, there is still this sense of I, which is ego. And I think the idea of, my ego is dead, that kind of is used as an excuse for self-superiority. Which is neither here nor there. People are gonna be the way they're gonna be. Yeah, but you never truly kill the ego, because you have an experience. When you have an awareness, you have a sense of I. You can have a holistic sense of I where you become all things at once. I think that's what some people refer to as the ego death, but I think there is a weird glaze that the psychedelic culture has put over the experience of the psychedelic, and people come with expectation that they're going to disappear into nothingness. And I'm not big on that idea. I think that you can experience a larger slice of the whole, and if depending on what you are taking and what the dosage is, you might even have an experience where you believe that you are experiencing everything all at once, a holistic experience that we call the God consciousness. But there's a lot more layers to it. That's just only one layer of the whole. Because if we truly were experiencing the whole, we would no longer be the self. We would not be able to function as human beings. And I'm pretty sure when I see a functioning human that says that that they are dead to their ego, I'm pretty sure that they are got issues that they should work through. Because I've been there. Sometimes you think that you're something special because you've had this experience. No, this is just something every human can tap into via meditation, via psychedelics, via sometimes just random experiences when the brain has certain neural firings that just kind of go haywire and transmit the awareness of that to the layer of consciousness that we are most likely experiencing. And my timer is going off, so it's letting me know that I gotta go. But this painting, if you enjoy what I was talking about and really like this painting, it is for sale on my website, ezekielschmidtart.com. The link is in the description. I also have prints, I have blankets, I have little postcards. If you only want something for like a couple bucks and you just want to put it on your fridge, I have them for $3. I have some prints for $20. If you want this one, it costs a little bit more. But I hope that you enjoyed this talk and that you got something out of it. I would love to hear what you think of the idea of the God consciousness, the whole on, the idea of the psyche being different parts that creates a unified consciousness that is correlated with brain states. And if you change your brain states, you can sometimes change how you perceive the different parts of the psyche. But please let me know. I would love to hear back from some of you. And I'm interested to see what other people think about this too, because I know that not everyone agrees with me. Actually, I know that probably most people will disagree with me. But that's all right. That's why we're here. Here to have that battle. So that way we can come closer to understanding what might be true. Or if there is a truth, maybe we'll discover it one day. Hope y'all have a great night. Happy Venus Day.